Right, joining us now to dissect the Portfolio Committee's recommendations, Trevor Shaku speaks for the South African Federation of Trade Unions. Trevor, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. The committee clearly convinced at this stage that some kind of an investigation needs to ensue into this matter. But as the Department of Public Enterprise is clearly digging in its heels, saying there's nothing untoward in this deal.
Thanks for having us, Crowley, and Tabo, rather, and good evening to your viewers. Look, first of all, the acting DG appeared a little bit scared, and it is my view, after observing, firstly, her answers, that actually there might be a salt of truth to the allegations, because you can't come and say that because certain documents which were signed, because they have the letterhead of the department, therefore this proves that they were not forged. Because they have the coat of arms of the government, therefore they are not forged. That, in our view, is not a convincing reason really to dismiss someone's allegations. And here we insist that, together with Parliament, because we welcome the decision taken unanimously by members of the Portfolio Committee on Public Enterprises to recommend to the Special Investigating Unit and other law enforcement agencies to take this matter and investigate it thoroughly, because we have got to establish really first what has happened in the appointment of this particular company to take 51% stake of the South African Airways at 2 billion at the time. But secondly, whether these allegations, which have been leveled against the minister by the former DG, Takatso-SAA, that if these particular allegations are true, we will only be able to ascertain this if thorough investigation takes place. And we agree with the Portfolio Committee members that the SIU is most capacitated and has demonstrated with various cases that they are capable of dealing with cases of this kind.
So, I mean, if you look at matters that would have been, in terms of the Act, fall under the purview of the SIU, I suppose, are the grounds in this particular instance where there is no contract, there is no particular contract in place between the state and any institution?
Look, we think, so if there's a recommendation, obviously, from Parliament, which is one arm of the state, obviously the SIU would have to look at the allegations and maybe make a draft proclamation which has to be sent to the president to be signed. And after that proclamation is signed, they begin with the work. We think that the president will have no other reason really not to sign such a draft proclamation which could be sent on the recommendation by the members of Parliament. Because why would you do that? If there is allegations that are hanging on the Minister of Public Enterprises on the sale of the 51% stake from the South African Airways to Takatso Consortium, we have to ascertain. And the only way to ascertain will be to ensure that there is investigation. But that also, if these people are really telling the truth, that they have not forged the documents as alleged, that indeed the process that they conducted was fair, and that this Takatso Consortium was not handpicked from outside of the process, which was established and was run by Rand Merchant Bank already at the time, as the allegation alleges. If indeed this process was thorough, proper, and without problems, they ought to agree to this particular investigation. And in our view, the president has to sign that draft proclamation, which should be sent to him after this recommendation reaches them.
Yeah, and I mean, why would a process like an ad hoc committee of Parliament not be able to achieve a similar outcome?
Look, they have explained themselves, the Portfolio Committee in particular, they have explained that they think that they as a committee, but secondly, as an institution, Parliament, they do not have the capacity and the skills to really do forensic audits. And therefore, the available arms which are responsible for law enforcement in this country have got such particular resources, skills and resources and capacity. And such particular matter, such particular allegations ought to be handed to such particular institutions. And I also think, indeed, that it would be fair that we move that out of the ad hoc committees of Parliament to the law enforcement agencies, because the law enforcement agencies, in addition to the fact that they have got the capacity, the skills, they also have got the authority and the reputation. They have been conducting these forensic audits, and they know how to work hand in hand with the prosecuting authorities in this country, and they have got that relation by law. And in that instance, the only, in my view, the most reputable body to be able to deal with this matter and conduct further investigations to ascertain indeed whether the allegations are correct would be indeed to hand over to the SIU and other law enforcement agencies to be able to handle the matter.
You've got literally a few weeks, if you do, before Parliament stands down. The Portfolio Committee seems to think this process can be truncated into the time that they have left to come up with some kind of report. I doubt, understanding how the whole process of proclamation works and the president taking his time in terms of signing that and what this investigation would entail. It's likely that it's not going to really be probed in this administration, and one wonders whether it's just political posturing that is happening right now.
Look, we do not think it's political posturing, especially if you consider the fact that the decision was unanimous, which means that all members of different political parties which are represented in that committee did vote to have this recommendation sent to the Special Investigating Unit. So it is not a political posturing in that context. Now, the second part of your question is whether this could be completed within this time frame or the time frame of this current administration. Of course, it may go beyond 29th of May 2024, which would essentially mean that you have a new government and a new members of the portfolio committees constituted in those particular committees of Parliament. And Parliament itself, of course, because the different voting weights may change the balance of forces in various committees. But we think that it is actually quite courageous and encouraging, rather, not courageous, but encouraging that all these parties who are represented in that particular portfolio committee voted in favor. So even if they were to return later, after the 29th of May, the continuation of this particular process ought to continue uninterrupted. We do not think that anyone, at least in their manifestos and as they speak now in the drive towards the national elections, they are saying to us that they are anti-corruption and they are fighting against any form of corruption. And therefore, if there are allegations of corruption, as it is alleged in this case, there is no party we would expect would want to stand on the way of investigating such particular allegations. So if indeed this is the case, after the 29th of May 2024, the continuation of the process should continue without any interruption, and we do not think that there ought to be any withdrawal of this particular process or any halting of this particular process, either by the new president, if we find a new president other than President Cyril Ramaphosa, or by the members of the portfolio committee who might constitute the portfolio committee after the elections. So we think that there ought to be a continuation, and if anyone takes themselves serious or wants to be taken serious by the South African public, if they do take a strong stance against corruption, we hope that none of those people will actually come to halt this particular process. Anyone who wants to be taken serious as a politician in this country has to stand against corruption, and if they have to stand against corruption, it means that even if it's Pravin Gordhan who's accused of corruption, has to be investigated. No one is above the law.
Trevor Shaku, appreciate your time speaking on behalf of Saftu, the South African Federation of Trade Union spokesperson. Right.